Hi everyone, welcome to DIY Ideas. Today I'm going to show you how you can make linen pants for the summer, and it's going to be super easy to make, so let's get started right away. So today I'm going to show you what we're going to need. So first of all, just some basics that we always need. So fabric scissors here, something to measure with, then regular pins, then thread for our sewing machine matching in the same color as the fabric, then fabric chalk so that we can mark different things, and then of course something to measure with. In my case I have here a wooden ruler, and make sure it's something that keeps its form and is not like a measuring tape. You can do a zipper with some fabric that you would put on the inside of the band that goes on top, or you can use a rubber band like this, a wide one, an elastic one, or a little bit narrower one. That's completely up to you. And then you can also use elastic thread for it, for the end of our pants, so that they look nicer, so that you can make them be kind of narrower at the bottom, or you can just let them loose with regular thread. The fabric here is linen, so it's pretty thin. It's perfect for the summer. It's not gonna make it any warmer than you need it to be, and it's pretty transparent, so it really does breathe with you, and it's absolutely great for summer and warm weather. And then some pants that fit you first of all, and then second that have a band on top so that we can copy that onto our new pair of pants. So first we're going to do both two pieces of the back side of our pants. So I folded my fabric in two, pretty side on pretty side here, and then I laid my pants on top of that. And then you just need the width and the length, that's according to your pants. You can make it a little bit longer if you'd like, depending on how long your original pants are. And yeah, then we're just going to mark and cut out the exact same shape. And then we're also going to do a little bit more so that we have about 1.5 centimeters on every edge, just so we have enough for our stitches. And now another thing that really depends on the pants you're using. So in my case, you see the waist is pretty high up there. So what I want to do is make it a little bit less high waist. So I'm going to take a little bit of the fabric here on the side away, since I'm not going to need that much for the band section. But apart from that, everything else is going to stay the same. So yeah, then we're going to mark everything, and then we can pin everything as well. So I have my pins here already ready for use, and then we can get started. So I'm going to start here. Just remember the 1.5 centimeters on each side. Also on this end, since this is the back side of our pants, it's a little bit more fabric than the front side because that's where our bottom goes. So just make sure to remember that we're going to need a little bit more fabric on this side and then a little bit less on the front. So it's going to be looking something like this in the front, but we're going to deal with that when we get there. So yeah, we're going to do basically the top section, the stitch, and then the bottom section. We're going to cut that out, and then we're going to do 4 pieces. So first 2 for the back, and then we're going to do the front later. So yeah, I'm just going to mark a straight line here on top and the bottom with my fabric chalk, and I'm going to cut it out. So now that we have our waist and our hips both marked, what we can do is do the rest of the shape. So now we're going to do the width of the leg, and it's going to be pretty wide since I want these to be summer pants, and I want them to be pretty straight. So I don't want anything weird going on, anything being narrower than anything else. So I'm just going to do a straight line on here. So you see here my big wooden ruler, and then I'm just going to do about 1.5 centimeters more than where my pins are, and I'm just going to mark basically a regular straight line. Also, a good tip is to measure the width so that we have the exact same number of centimeters for the front part, because we do want them to be exactly the same. So yeah, then we're gonna mark this as well on the other side, and then we're gonna basically measure what the width is from the one marking to the other. And then we're gonna cut everything out. So on top here, I'm gonna cut it out, the leftover piece of fabric that I don't need. And yeah, you might not be able to see my fabric chalk really nicely here since the fabric is pretty thin and pretty light, but make sure to use something that is washable later. And yeah, I can see it definitely, but I bet on the camera it looks a little bit different. So yeah. So now that we did the back side, we can do the same with the front. So here, just make sure that it's a little bit less fabric than it was in the front. So I kind of put it inwards like this, just fold it inwards. And then basically what we want to do is do that instead of the whole thing, since we don't need as much fabric in the front. And then I'm going to mark that. And in case you have a different type of fabric, it might be a little bit tricky to kind of fold them inwards like that. So in that case, we can fix that later. Just remember that you then need an extra step just to make sure that it's looking good in the end. And the same thing is going to happen here on the top. So you can see that the front part of the band that goes around the tummy is a little bit lower than the back part that's around our back. So we need to think about that later. But apart from that, there's pretty much no difference between the front and the back. So yeah, I'm gonna fold this little section inward so that it's a little bit smaller, not too much, and then I'm just gonna do a straight line here with my fabric chalk again. Then I'm gonna do the same thing here on the bottom as I did so far. So I'm just gonna do our straight lines, parallel lines, and then we're gonna have our parts done for sewing. Okay, so now that we have all of this done, I'm going to show you the difference that I did. So you see here in the front is my front half and in the back half, and you see how different they are. So it's really a minimal difference, but it is there. And yeah, now what I want to do is basically align them. As you can see, I already pinned this so that it stays in place. You can see the difference from the front and the back. That section we're going to do at the end as far as the stitches go, so that it's easier to do, but you see that the lines are kind of meeting, or the edges are meeting one another at the end. So yeah, what we want to do is in the end just align them so that they're really both edges at the same spot, and then we're going to stitch that up as well. Now is also a good time to check if the width of the leg, the lower section, if that's exactly the same in the front and the back, and that's really important to fix if it's not. And then, yeah, as far as the front or the top goes, you can see here that we followed the shape that we had. And yeah, now we can get started with our stitches. So first I'm going to do the side stitches. This is absolutely up to you what you want to do, but I just thought it would be easier to do the side stitches first, and then we can put the basically two halves together to get our final result. So in order to do these side stitches, I want to do two exact same pieces, and I'm going to align them together, pretty side on pretty side. Okay, so we're going to align everything, make sure that it's really pretty side on pretty side, that it has its edges aligned, and then on the bottom what we're going to do is basically pin everything to keep it in place as we do our stitches, and then we're going to do a regular straight stitch on this side. So that's going to be the open side, or the outer side of our pants, the outer stitch. So that's what I'm going to do now, and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. Okay, so now that we did these stitches, we can start with the other side. So here we need to take care that the back side is on is aligned to the front side. So there's going to be a little bit less fabric. So we're going to start at the bottom exactly the same way, and then up until the spot where we need to align the two edges, so where we have a little bit more fabric. So this is what we're going to do. We're basically going to align the two edges and just disregard the extra fabric that we have on this back side. That's completely normal, and that's what we want. So the edges really need to be exactly aligned. And then what we're going to do is do a stitch there. So yeah, we just want a stitch there, nothing special. You can do an extra stitch just to make sure everything stays in place. And then here, the top section, we're gonna do in a moment. Okay, so now I did the other half the exact same way as so far, so you can just rewind the video and do the same thing as we just did. And now that we have these two halves done, we can put them together and get our pants. So what we want to do is connect this top section. So here we want to align the ends of the stitches here, so where we have our little triangles or our little points. So we want to really make sure that they're nicely aligned. And then we're going to do the front side first or the back side, but not both at the same time. Then we're going to pin everything together. So we basically just want to make sure that it's all nicely aligned. The edges are good and symmetrical. And then we're going to pin everything and we're going to stitch that up. And then just make sure that the middle point is really aligned. That's the most important thing. And then you can basically repeat the same thing on the back. And again pin and then do a regular straight stitch on there. So here with the back section we have this edge here, so a little bit more fabric, and yeah, we're just going to do a straight stitch there instead of follow the edge, so don't worry about that. And yeah, let's get started. So this is what it looks like now that it's all sewn together, and you can see here from the inside what it looks like, the stitch, and then from the outside you can see how we matched everything, so everything is nicely aligned and that's exactly what we wanted. And yeah, apart from that, now we just have a couple of details to work on. So before we do that, make sure you try these on right now, see if everything fits, if they're too tight, if they're too loose, because now when you fix things it's going to be a lot easier than when you have everything else here done and the band and everything. So we're going to do a band in the end. You can do an elastic band, you can do something simple or something more complicated. I'm going to do it a little bit wider here, but if you did just a ruffled effect with an elastic band, that's even easier to do. So yeah, I'm going to show you what we're going to do, and just make sure before you move on to try the pants on and see if they fit. Okay, so now that we tried these on, for example, in my case, I fixed this a little bit. I needed a little bit less fabric than I originally did, so this is the perfect time to do that. And yeah, if everything fits, then even better, then you don't have any extra steps to do, so we can get started. So now, if you remember, I told you a little bit ago that we did need the front to be a little bit lower than the back as far as the hip or the waist section goes. So yeah, I'm going to show you that here we want to align everything nicely. So again, all of the stitches, I'm going to pin them to keep them in place. And then what I'm going to do is just here cut it out a little bit, so just a little bit shorter, and then here let it as it is, let it be as it is, since here is going to be our back section and we really don't need anything else there. So that's what I'm going to do now. So now when we align everything, this is what you should have. So the back section is a little bit higher than the front section, and that's exactly what we wanted. So by cutting it the other way around, we actually got a symmetrical, exactly even thing on both the left and the right, and that's exactly what we wanted. So now what we want to do is do our band. So since we did this a little bit differently and the front and the back are not the same anymore, you might need a couple of centimeters more or not, depending on how big the difference is. But all in all, we're going to be able to work with this. So here is the band. I basically took 40 centimeters in its width and then the same length as, or the same width as one half of my pants. So I did that twice so that I have the exact same stitch in the middle, and then when I put it like this, you see that it's a little bit more than the pants themselves. And now what we're going to do is basically fold this in half, and then we take our elastic band. Just make sure that you have enough in length. You do want to check around your waist if it's too tight or not, because you do want it to stay on your hips but not, or on your waist but not squeeze too tight. So yeah, also if it's a little bit shorter than the fabric, it might ruffle a little bit. Maybe you want that effect, but if not, make sure you have enough in length as far as the elastic band goes. So yeah, now what I'm going to do is do the same with the back. So I need the exact same piece, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now I have 4 small pieces that I put together in 2. So I have the exact same thing twice. And once it's going to go around the front, once around the back. Of course, you can do just one huge piece or super long piece, but I think this is a lot easier and more manageable to do, but feel free to try it out if you'd like to. So yeah, now that we have these cut out, then we can start with the one side. So I'm going to start with the front, and then I'm going to again align everything pretty side on pretty side as always. Make sure that all of the stitches are aligned, and then I'm going to pin everything, and then I'm going to stitch it up, and that's going to be it. So yeah, just take your time as far as the aligning goes. You do want this to be neat since this is a pretty visible part of your pants. And then what you also want to take care of is to use enough pins so that everything stays in place while you work on it. Then we're gonna do a little tunnel so that we can do our elastic band on the inside, and then we're gonna finish it up. So yeah, when we basically do the stitch, then when we turn it the other way around, it's gonna look a lot neater in case this looks weird for now. So we're doing pretty side on pretty side, which means that we're not seeing the end result, but actually the inside of it. So yeah, I'm gonna do that really quick. I'm gonna pin everything, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now I did the front and the back, as you can see. And now what we want to do is check if everything fits, if everything's aligned. So you see here that the line, the 2 lines are aligned, but you may see that on the outside it looks a little bit weird. That's because of the leftover bits of fabric. So even if you have a couple of millimeters to the side, it's not too bad because it's not going to be visible. Now here, we just want to make sure that everything is right. Here, you're going to be able to notice any differences, so make sure you do this precisely. You again want all the stitches to be aligned, all of the crosses, and then just secure the stitch a couple of times so that it doesn't rip when you put it on and take it off. So now what we want to do is seam it once, or not seam it, but just fold it inwards once and then once again, and then we're going to do a stitch there that's going to make a nice seam in the end. And yeah, you can do it at the same spot where you did your existing stitch already. So if I turn it inside out, you're going to be able to see it right here. But you can, of course, do an extra stitch if you'd like that. And then don't worry about the one that's already there. So the cool thing about this is that you don't have any cut open edges visible. So you don't have to do extra steps, but you get this done and hidden already. So let's do that. Okay, so now that we did this and that our band is looking pretty good, we still have an open end and we want to go with our elastic band on the inside. So you can see here, you can check all of the stitches if everything's looking good. In my case, it is. And yeah, just make sure to check before you move on. And here I left a little opening so that I can push my elastic band through, and I'm going to use my safety pin to make it easier. So yeah. Also, you can try it on before you stitch it up, the elastic band, just to make sure that it's not too tight or too loose. So yeah, this works just like with any other fabric or with turning something inside out. You basically guide the safety pin on the inside and then the elastic band will follow. Also, when we're done, when the one end comes out of the other hole, so to speak, we're going to put these together and then we're going to do a stitch here so that it stays in place and doesn't move anywhere. And then we're going to do an extra stitch here just to close the hole. So this is what my band looks like now when I pulled the elastic band on the inside through and stitched it up. So it is ruffled a little bit, but that's what I wanted. As I said, if you do a longer length, then it's going to be less ruffled. If you do even shorter, then it's going to be more ruffled. So yeah, now what I would recommend is that you take your zipper if you need one. You can put it on the side or in the middle, that's completely up to you. And this is just some fabric that I would put on the inside so that my band keeps its shape a little bit more on the inside. So you don't have to do this, but you can, and this way it's going to look a little bit more stable. And then you can also make sure that you have the exact width that you want, and you can have it ruffled just the way you like it. So yeah, here on the side, everything's going to stay the same. My zipper is going to go on the side, but apart from that, you can also do your pants without a zipper. So yeah, as far as the bottom section goes, you can leave it as it is. I used my zigzag scissors and I cut out a nice edge. You can seam it as well if you'd like to, or you can just leave it as it is. That's completely up to you. You can even have a frayed look, or you can fold it like this on the outside or on the inside. So that's completely up to you. So here I could do a regular straight stitch just to make it a little bit neater. I can do more or less. So it can be wider or less wide depending on what you want to get in the end and what your final length is going to be. So you can see there's a lot of room here for different things that you can do. So just make sure you do something that you like. And yeah, I'm going to do this step really quick and then I'll be back again. So here are my finished pants. So here you can see the band, and the bottom I decided to seam in the end so that you can see what that looks like. And yeah, this was pretty easy. It was pretty fast and simple, and you can see that the result is pretty cool. So yeah, Now is the time to try it on for the final time and see if everything fits, if everything's good. Here is a little preview of what that looked like in my case. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to shoot a thumbs up if you did. You can also subscribe to my channel if you'd like, and if you click on the notification bell, you'll get notified every time I post something new. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye!